Welcome back to another episode of Poor Miscellaneous Talks. I am your host, Glass Crossfield. Today we have the world-renowned CEO, and he's anxious to talk about sex today. So please introduce yourself.
Good morning. I'm Dr. Elliot Justin. I'm the founder and the CEO of FirmTech, and our mission is better sex and better sexual health for everyone.
Mr. Justin, why do you have two first names?
It's my mother. How doing? My mother. So the last name was Justino. They were Hungarian and Italian. When they got off the boat in Ellis Island, they dropped the O, so it became Justin. And my mother was an admirer of FDR. One of FDR's sons was named Elliot. So I ended up Elliot Justin. So it was Justin before Justin Bieber came along and made the name so popular.
That's funny. So what is FirmTech?
Sure. Well, do you know about nocturnal erections, Glassford?
Said nocturnal erections.
Nocturnal erections.
So that's erections during your sleep?
Yeah. So everyone knows about morning wood, but and their partners know about it too. But almost no one, including doctors, knows about nocturnal erections. So about 3 years ago, and I'll first say my background, just being an emergency medicine doctor, I'm a medical technologist. There was a urology professor at the University of Utah who challenged me to come up with a way of counting the number of nocturnal erections that men have. And I was kind of taken aback by that because, like, what does that mean? He says, well, they're a leading indicator of a man's cardiovascular or cardiometabolic diabetic health. So in other words, before a man has a heart attack or a stroke or becomes diabetic, their number of nocturnal erections will go down. So a young guy like you probably have 4 to 6 per night.
Oh,
I'm 70. I should have 3 or 4 per night. So if I were tracking that the way I might track my blood pressure or electrocardiogram or even my weight, and that number went down, I have a cardiovascular problem or medication-related problem until proven otherwise. So the numbers, are really significant. Less significant in someone your age who's healthy, but more significant as men could go up to their 40s and 50s. On the other hand, we have had people using our device your age, even younger, who've only had one erection. And that would led to them to seek therapy, which they wouldn't have without technology. So when this doctor told me, let's come up with a way to count the number of erections, I thought, well, we can do better than that. We can embed sensors into a cock ring and make a smart cock ring. And that means that during sex, you can measure the duration and the firmness of your erections. And then you'll know about the impact of diseases, medications, recreational drugs, alcohol, supplements, diet, partners on your sexual performance. In addition to which, another thing I didn't understand before I got involved in this project is the value of cock rings. Do you know have you ever used a cock ring?
no, no. This is a completely new atmosphere to me.
Okay, it was new for me too. So let's say I'm 70. That means I've been having sex first with myself since I was about probably 11 or 12.
Jesus Christ.
So that's almost 55 plus years of having sex without a cock ring. So the average, straight guy's attitude towards a cock ring is, oh, I don't need that. I'm fine. Well, it's not about need, it's about want. Because even for a man who doesn't have a problem, cock ring makes your orgasm better. Now, it's not as good as a vibrator for women, but what a ring does is it puts, especially our rings, it's really been designed for pleasure. Our ring, we basically block the venous return from the penis. That leads to more blood in your penis. The more blood's in your penis, the better the orgasm. And we also put a little bit of light pressure over the urethra from which men ejaculate, doubling the ejaculatory time. So the longer it takes to ejaculate, the more profound the orgasm is. So it's not, to my mind, it's not about someone saying, "Oh, I don't want that." That's you're ignorant then. It's really about, you should want this. I mean, you should want to have more pleasure.
Yeah, that's intense. The double the amount of ejaculation pleasure.
Time, you double the time. It doesn't, I'm not, no, I would say the amount of pleasure goes up about 5 to 10%. But it's different. In my lifetime, vibrators are mainstream for women. My mother's vibrator was in the bottom drawer of a supply closet that she thought her kids would never find. Of course, we did. Didn't know what it was, but we found it. My wife has one on a night table and takes one on trips. My daughter takes one on dates. But cock rings have not been mainstream, and should be, because they will enhance a man's pleasure. But the real value of what we're doing, though, is in the data. What's really cool about what we're doing is in the data. So right now, if a man goes to a doctor, sexologist, and says, "Gee, one of two things: I have ED. What can I do to stop it?" ED, erectile dysfunction, or two, "Hey, I like where I am right now. Like you, Glass, we probably like we are right now. What can I do to sustain it, to keep myself in this position?" Well, you need data for that. Just so, if I'll pick on you. If you went to a pulmonologist, a lung doctor, and say, "Gee, I'm having trouble breathing. It's just getting worse. I wheeze, I cough, I wake up at night coughing," and the doctor listened with the stethoscope and said, "Hey, Glassford, you're fine." And that doctor didn't get a chest X-ray or pulmonary function test or blood test, you would think, what is this, fucking 1880? Just lifting the stethoscope, I'm okay. Well, right now, if a man goes to a urologist or a sexologist and says, "Gee, I got ED," or I'm concerned about my performance, he just has an opinion. I mean, he can wave an ultrasound over your dick in his office, but you want to know what's going on while you're having sex. And that's where FirmTech comes in. We can measure objectively the duration of your erections and their firmness while you're having sex, and that's valuable.
Got you. So what would you say it was your goal when you created this company?
Well, I guess you probably gather that I've always been into sex, and I'm also a doctor. So my goal was really my goal was to fill in a gap. We live in this age of healthcare wearables. So many people have smart watches, smart rings. I'm certain some of your friends do. You might even have one as well too. There's Whoop, Aura, Apple Watch, Biohacker. Well, what do men care more about? How many steps they took yesterday, or the status of their penis? And that's a rhetorical question. All guys care more about their penis. So there's this gap in wearables, and there's also this gap in sexual health knowledge. I want to fill that gap.
Well, how does the technology work?
Well, would you like to see one?
Sure.
Hold on a second. So there's a pressure sensor. And inside the hook, there's a strain gauge. So as your penis expands, gets thicker, increases in girth, it presses on the sensors. And so we can measure that by measuring that pressure on the sensors, we can measure how hard the penis is. And we can also measure for how long it's hard. So you get a graph. We're in the Apple and Google stores. I'll show you what data looks like. That's our icon.
Oh wow, you got a FirmTech sticker.
Gotta have swag, right?
Merch.
One sec. Oh, I gotta have the ring on. This ring's not. This not gonna. One sec. Hey, Riley, fetch me my ring from downstairs because this ring's is turned off. So I want to show them what the day looks like.
You're about to put the ring on?
Wait for a skip.
No. I'm not sure what. Skip, got it. Here we go. Got it. Okay. That's what the data looks like. So if you look over here, that's my wife and I having sex. And then, hold on. And then these other high bumps are my erections while I'm sleeping. So that's a healthy thing. This is like, waking up in the morning and say, oh, my electrocardiogram is normal. That's good. Except in this case, we're saying, hey, not only is my heart in good condition, but my penis is in good condition. And I'm interested in both those things rather than just one of them.
So let's say your erections decrease, God forbid, to 1 or 2 a night. How then would you react, and what would you do?
Well, I think, is this something that I'm doing differently? Am I taking a medication? So the biggest erection killers are high blood pressure medicines, and half the adult population in the United States has high blood pressure. At your age, 20% of adults have high blood pressure. It's a problem. It's a big problem. And the other big killer are the antidepressants, the SSRI class of antidepressants. Lexapro, Wellbutrin, Prozac. Those medications. About 20% of men are taking those, and those are real dick killers as well too. So I would, if my number of nocturnal erections went down, I think, am I taking too much of a medication? If it just happened out of the blue and stayed that way for a week, I'd see a cardiologist, because I would have a cardiovascular problem until proven otherwise. So the two ways, the two parts of the body where we can as doctors, where we can most access, so to speak, or analyze what's going on in your microvasculature, your small blood pressure, small blood vessels, are your retina. You can look into the retinogram. Well, that's expensive. It takes time. You got to go to a doctor. Or your penis. Because if your number of nocturnal erections goes down, you have a cardiovascular problem until proven otherwise. The penis is really sensitive to low blood flow. And as heck, in the city you're living in, the big city, the rates of diabetes and hypertension are higher even than the rest of the country. They're among the highest in the world. I mean, in New York City, it's estimated that 40 to 50% of the adult population is either diabetic or pre-diabetic. And it's probably about close to that for high blood pressure as well too. So there are a lot of people a lot of men, especially 30s, 40s, and 50s, 60s, who would benefit from this technology.
You're doing God's work, man. My goodness.
Thank you.
So how did this?
Go ahead. We're working on something similar for women. So this is out in the market. I mean, this is we sold over 7,000 units since launching last May. You can find us, in the Apple and Google. You can find us online at myfirmtech.com. But women have even more problems than men do. I don't like it. They play that both ways, but because postmenopausal women in the 40s and 50s on up, they have all the same problems that men do, with high blood pressure, diabetes, heart attacks, atherosclerosis, obesity. But younger women take more medicines than men do, and medicines that affect their sexuality. They take hormones for birth control, and they take more antidepressants, like twice as many anti-anxiety medications as men do. And those two things have a real bad impact on their sexual performance and their happiness, consequently. So we've tested on 38 women. We call it the Clit Track, and haven't launched, and we hope to launch that next year. But we've tested a monitor of clitoral health that can be used by women at home in privacy. You don't have to go to a lab or see a doctor for it. And it works. It's cool. And so that's, to my mind, these are both legacy things for me. I certainly want to make money, but I also want to deliver to people, men and women, and sexologists, gynecologists, urologists, data that will allow people to take better care of themselves.
So when you say sexual performance for women, what areas are they lacking in? Because a lot of women, they'll claim that, well, if I'm not getting there, then it's the man's fault. So I'm very interested to hear, when they're lacking in sexual performance, how that
Well, there are medications that it can be harder for women to get there if they're taking an antidepressant or if they're taking hormones, because both those things can impede sexual performance, can interfere with sexual performance. I also think, it's interesting to think that part of it is men's fault. I mean, studies indicate that men, that women are more orgasmic on a first date if they're going out with a woman than if they're with a man. So why is that? So it can't be the anxiety factor. And so one, I think it has to do with men not paying enough attention to the clitoris, and also men, the emphasis on penetrative sex. It's simply harder for women to have an orgasm with penetration than it is with oral or manual sex. We know these things. These are things that have been reported forever, but the emphasis is often in hetero, the emphasis in sex between a man and woman, especially early on in a relationship, is on penetration. As a matter of fact, we know that by age 40, half of sexual activity between men and women doesn't involve penetration. It's either oral, manual sex. So it's kind of, but the way in which we score these things as doctors, but there's something called the erectile hardness score, EHS, which I'm certainly never heard of. I hadn't heard of it until a couple of years ago. It's a 4-point score for male sexuality. 1 is can't get up at all. 2 is stiffening but can't penetrate. 3 is can penetrate but can't sustain erection, and 4 is normal. Well, the emphasis there is on penetrative sex. The female sexual female sexual FSDI, the female sexual dysphoria index, also emphasizes penetrative sex. So to answer your question, I think that the problem really is it takes longer for a woman to come during penetration than it does with oral and manual stimulation. So maybe the problem is also is them not pushing for what actually will work for them, and on the other hand, it's the guys wanting to penetrate. But certainly, as people get older, that shifts. I don't know. So I got to ask a personal question. So, in your dating experience, are you married or single?
I'm single.
So, in your dating experience, on a first or second date, is the emphasis on penetration, or is it on other ways of the woman coming?
When you say emphasis, you mean from my end or from her end?
Both. And what ends up happening? And a vibrator is part of it, because vibrator obviously changes the game for women.
Right. I mean, me personally, I normally foreplayed up. Have you ever heard of Susan Bratton?
We're good friends. Yes, I have.
I interviewed her twice.
Oh,
So
cool.
yeah, so she mentioned that it takes about women 20 minutes like to heat up in comparison to almost immediately for a man. So I actually like to take my time with the
Cool.
because I know that's very important for women.
Yeah, Susan Bratton she's a lot of fun, and she knows a lot.
Yeah,
And I'm involved with her in a research project right now. We're studying a man with very significant erectile dysfunction, and we're trying to use our technology to assess what can make him better. Shockwave therapy is used for vacuum penis pumps. We're trying out various things and seeing and medications. So, for example, the Viagra, Cialis, medications. What's the right dose? So, using technology, you can figure out what's the right dose, or is it even working? I basically prescribe Viagra to men in 2 different age categories. And it's interesting because I don't think most men actually need it. I think for most men, it's a confidence builder. So, because Viagra, those class of medications, they're called PD5 medications, they put more blood in the penis, but they don't keep it there. So they're not going to prevent someone from the most common male failure is to get an erection and lose it. I call it the fading erection syndrome. And that can happen for lots of reasons. It can happen because of alcohol. It can happen because someone says something, a guy hears something that he doesn't like, or it can happen because of medical problems or medications. So utilizing technology, again, you can start to figure out what works, what doesn't work. And this technology didn't exist. Right now there are 6 research papers that are going to be published utilizing our technology by renowned urologists across the country. So by this time next year, the American urology community, the world urology community is going to know that there now is technology that they can use to help men address problems.
What would you say is the number one thing that any man can do to improve their sexual health?
Well, I will differentiate health from performance. So it's for sexual health, it's really about not being diabetic, not being hypertensive, watching your weight. There are lots of supplements out there. We just recently tested some of the common ones: L-arginine, DHEA, horny goatweed. They don't really work. There's nothing. So it's really about being overall healthy and being fit. In terms of improving a man's performance, put a ring on it. You'll enjoy it.
Interesting.
But it's got to be a good ring. So when, what's different about our ring is when this doctor challenged me to come up with a way of counting the number of nocturnal erections, I had to reinvent the cock ring, because cock rings are made out of hard silicone. You've seen them. They're these cheap things go for $10, $20. They're uncomfortable. They pinch. You have to have an erection before you put it on, because it's like a chokehold in your penis. You don't want to block the arterial flow into the penis by putting it on before you have an erection. And you can only wear them for about 15, 20 minutes before they get to be too uncomfortable. So in order to have a ring that could be worn overnight, I had to make this.
Look at these numbers. Please subscribe and help me out. Love you.
The ring out of a soft elastomer. So this is uniquely, flexible. It's not silicone. It's elastomer. And then it has to be, so if I would recommend two rings, I'd recommend ours, and there's another one called a lasso, but it's also effective. But most cock rings are not. But if a man wants to enhance his performance, then a cock ring is great. But I will say, I just getting back to it before about the drugs that people take so commonly, Viagra and Cialis being the big ones. They put more blood in, but they don't keep it there. But if you want to have a really long-lasting erection, if you combine, even a young guy like you who's healthy, if you combine Viagra or Cialis with our ring, you're gonna have a really long-lasting erection. It's really incredible.
I fear I'm gonna be overly stimulated. That's what I'm worried about. That's what too much dopamine is not a good thing.
Well, yeah, I prescribe PD5 medications to men in two age groups. Said before, like the guys my age who are divorced and dating someone who's 25 or 30 years younger, and they want the medication for a confidence builder because they're going out with someone younger. A month later, once there's confidence and trust in the relationship, they don't need the medication anymore, assuming they're not diabetic or hypertensive. I've also prescribed it to guys your age, my son's age, because they've heard from their friends, and they're right on my personal experience, that you can drink a little bit more booze and still have an orgasm if you take Viagra or Cialis. It probably improves. So they're gonna, if they're gonna go partying, it's nice to have more than two cocktails and still be able to get it up. So that's a performance enhancer too. But in terms of addressing the issue of whiskey dick, there's nothing like a cock ring. I mean, nothing, beyond rock hard, there's cock ring hard. Nothing's going to get you harder. No oral, manual, vaginal stipulation is going to get you harder than a cock ring. And if you are going to drink and have sex, you're facing that issue of the fading erection, and a ring can help compensate for that.
I never had whiskey dick before. I've heard of it, but I've never had it, and I've drank a lot.
Well, good for you. I'll tell you, I'll make you a bet. 5 years from now, you'll have experienced it. You're young.
I don't appreciate that. Don't bring that negative energy over.
Okay, 20 years from now.
20 years from now. All right. Or I'm sure there's someone out there who's never experienced it ever in their life. So maybe I'm an outlier.
Good.
So how does someone know if they're sexually healthy? Because I'm sure there's people out there who probably think that as long as I'm able to finish, that I am sexually healthy. So what are some of the signs that someone is sexually healthy?
Well, if you're sexually healthy, you should be having the number of nocturnal erections that are appropriate to your age. So at every age, up to say 80, you should be having about at least 3 nocturnal erections per night. And you wouldn't know that without technology. Similarly, you should have erections that last more than 3 minutes. And it should be rock hard. And one of the interesting things about being my age, looking back on being your age, is rock hard's rock hard. I'm as rock hard now as I was when I was your age. The only difference, in this course will not happen to you, but the only difference is is the interval between orgasms. That gets longer and longer, and that's called the refractory period. And no one knows. I mean, I'm very interested in that problem, but no one knows yet what to do about it. I've conducted an experiment on trying to stimulate the cavernous nerve, which is everyone's favorite nerve that no one's heard about. Don't turn on the coffee machine. Sorry about that. It's the nerve that's involved with orgasm in men. Hoping that but if I could stimulate that, I could control it and restore the refractory period in aging men and help old people have happier sex lives. But I failed.
So far, you didn't fail.
So far,
you just figured out how not to do it. So the refractory period, at someone at my age, what should the refractory period be, and someone at your age?
No one knows. No one studied it. Do you believe that? No one has studied objectively what the refractory period should be at various ages. We lived through it. So, when I was your age, I'll just talk about myself, talk about it personally. When I was your age, I could have 4, 5, 6 orgasms a day. At my age, it's 2. It's kind of sad in a way, but it does make you more productive.
Oh my God. That is very true. So the only thing we really do know is that as we age, that time is just longer, far longer.
It gets longer, yeah. And I'm probably a bit of an outlier, but I think one of the things that can make you an outlier in sex is treating it like it's like a great form of exercise in a way. So if you use it regularly, your body expects it. We could get by on 2 meals a day, but if we're used to eating 3 meals a day, and you miss the meals, like, oh, I'm hungry. Well, since I was like 11 or 12, I've been having at least 1 orgasm per day. So if I go without it for more than a day, it's like, well, I've got to have it. Whereas if someone my age, or even someone your age, went a year without it, 2 years without it, well, then their body is no longer as responsive. And remember, we have guys in our, if I say patients, but they're the customers, they communicate with me, and I'm a doctor, so I not call them patients. We've had a couple of guys who in their, one in his 50s, one in his 60s, both in great physical condition, who really, one for depression and the other for religious reasons, after they got divorced, didn't have sex for a year or 2. And then when they want to resume sex, it was difficult for them because your penis will atrophy. It really is use it or lose it. And that becomes more critical as you get older. At your age, less of an issue. But people in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, if they go without having sex for a period of time, it's harder to resume regular relations.
Oh my God, you got me scared, man. Oh my goodness.
I don't want to scare you. I want to inspire you.
I better be married at that age then, right? Jeez. So you mentioned that you have at least 1 orgasm every day. So what about the people who talk about the benefits of abstaining from releasing your seed?
I don't know what they're talking about. What's wrong with them? They're missing out on pleasure. I mean, orgasms are great for your mental health. They're great for your heart. They're great for your immune system. They're even good for your skin. So
they say that it increases testosterone when you
yeah. No, well, that's if you go without sex, your testosterone levels will go down. If you have a lot of sex, the testosterone levels go up. Not by a lot, by the way. It's not it's not that dramatic, but the body will produce more testosterone if the performance is demanded. So, look, if you go to the gym and work out regularly, you may, as you get older, you maintain your testosterone levels. If you don't have sex, get fat, don't exercise, your testosterone levels go down. And not exercising and being fat are associated with low testosterone and low sexual performance.
Got it. Wow. So I've been lied to.
Well, I think because ideally people would have that as part of their, people who go to the gym would also maybe also consider always exercising their favorite part of the body.
You mentioned that you should have about at least 3 to 4 erections no matter your age. But like, what if
per night at night?
What if you don't have like a sexual dream or anything like that? Like,
Well, that's an interesting point, because no one knows what's going on when we're sleeping. So you've heard about REM sleep, rapid eye movement sleep, is supposed to be the quality sleep, and we need about, an hour to an hour and a half of that per day. Well, doctors think that every one of those episodes of REM sleep, quality sleep, is accompanied by an erection. It might not be a full erection, it might be a half erection or 2/3 erection. But are you dreaming about sex at night, or is this the body's way of sending blood to an organ that needs blood? So we don't know what's going on. I did conduct an experiment on myself, and I couldn't figure it out. So when we invented this device, for 2 nights, I set my alarm for every 75 minutes. I wanted to wake myself up and see when I'm having an erection night, what am I dreaming about? But Glassford, I could never remember in the morning.
Yeah.
I should have written it down.
Yeah, that's my thing. A lot of people tell me, yeah, I dream every night. I don't remember anything. I don't remember anything.
Yeah, me too.
So how does someone know that they're in good cardiac health?
That's more difficult. So if you're the tests that we have are not predictive. So what's valuable about nocturnal erections is if you have them, if you're having a normal nocturnal erections, it's unlikely that you'll have a heart attack or stroke in the next year. Less of an issue at your age, more of an issue at my age. If you have a normal electrocardiogram, your heart is probably in good health, but it's more predictive at your age than at my age. So in terms of other aspects of cardiac health is you should be able to walk a mile in 6 to 7 minutes. You should be able to, you can go to a gym as well too, but you should be able to walk up several flights of steps without getting short of breath. There are things that you can do to challenge yourself. And one of the things that I do is every staircase, I walk up 2 steps at a time. Even if from some airport or in some building, it's a monster staircase, I walk up 2 steps at a time, because it's a way actually of stress testing myself, of knowing at my age, is there a change in my exercise tolerance? So I can go up 3 flights of steps, 2 steps at a time, carrying a suitcase without getting short of breath. When I get to 4 or 5 flights, then it gets to I get more short of breath. But I think it's harder living where you live in the city to stay in shape. I think the key is to walk a lot and walk quickly.
New Yorkers are known for walking fast.
It's good, yeah. You got to avoid the panhandlers, and you got.
What are some of the sexual deficiencies that your technology helps eradicate?
Sure. Well, on the data side, we can help people titrate their medications so that they maximize their sexual performance while getting the benefit from medication. So we have men and their doctors who are using our device to monitor the dosage of an antihypertensive medication, or to determine, doctors prescribe drugs stupidly. It's one size fits all. How much, I weigh 155 pounds. If I told a doctor I'm depressed and he would give me a prescription for X amount of, say, Lexapro, if someone came in his office who weighed 300 pounds, that person would get the same dosage prescribed to them. That's kind of dumb. So utilizing technology, you can actually determine what is best, for you. That's probably the major benefit of what we're doing. That and predicting your overall vascular health. But Warren, we also at both extremes can help men with the data this way. If a man can't get up with a partner, but they're having 4 nocturnal erections per night, he's got a problem in his head. If there's some other issue going on, it's not his ED is not due to a medical problem. At the other extreme, if a man's only having 1 or 2 week nocturnal erections, even that guy has a significant cardiovascular problem, or is diabetic and needs to see a doctor. That's really valuable too. On the mechanical side, if a man has erections that are not rock hard, or its erections fade, the mechanical solution is like plumbing. If you just constrain the venous return from the penis, we can sustain an erection. My wife has actually proven that to me a couple of times. She's picked fights with me while we're having sex, just to show that the ring will keep me hard anyway.
That must have been an interesting conversation. So, when developing this technology in this company, what has been the most important lesson that you've learned throughout the journey?
This has been the hardest thing that I've ever done. I've started 6 companies of my own. I've had 4 exits. I've been a consultant for other startups. This has been real exercise it's been humbling, because this business involves everything from supply chain, manufacturing, hardware, software, user experience, the app, onto to marketing. And the marketing is a multi-tiered. It's to doctors, it's to consumers on social media. I didn't realize how hard it would be, and I still have not really figured out. We have not really figured out direct to consumer marketing, and we've also learned not to trust a lot of the experts as well. When it came to, there were a lot of mistakes were made in building the software early on, and these mistakes are happening in front of me. We're working with named companies, but the mistakes happen in front of me. But because of my ignorance about those areas, I have to trust experts. I'm kind of in the same situation that many people are when they go to doctors. We're forced to trust people, but often that trust is misplaced.
Interesting. Have you written any books?
I have written a book. It's called The Chastity of Honor. It's on Kindle.
Interesting. I have to check that out. And my final question, where can people find more information about FirmTech and the rest of your wonderful works?
Sure. You can find out information at myfirmtech.com, myfirmtech.com. We'll be in Amazon soon. We're on Instagram as well under FirmTech. And I encourage you to try the product.
God bless you, Mr. Justin. You're doing so well. You're helping men everywhere become their true selves. God bless you.
I want you to have a lifetime of lovemaking.
Amen. So you plan on having intercourse until your 90s, right? Until the
Yes.
Wow.
Why not?
You make a good point.
And it shouldn't be just a few minutes. It should be, 35, 40 minutes, right?
Is that including foreplay?
We'll add that on. I think the ideal time for sex is about 40 to 45 minutes, including foreplay.
Okay, all right, we're good then. Yeah. All right. All right.